Hey everyone, the guys being a non-gendered term, that's what I call you guys, you're my guys, it's a community, it's me Max. Anyway, it's like 11 at night, I just recorded the last video, which is why I'm wearing the same shirt as the last video, and earlier today I got a comment on my haircut video from a subscriber, which I'll put the comment there, sorry I can't remember your name, but there you go, who said that it would be good to hear me just talk about movies. And apparently, you know, it's relaxing and I love movies, so I think that's a perfect video topic. Really, just, you know, chill Saturday night. I mean, you guys will be seeing this on Wednesday, not Saturday, but this is recording on Saturday. Anyway, so just a chill, relaxed ramble, because I love when people ramble about things they're interested in, especially for like a longer time. So I'm just going to do a bit of a longer ramble. Feel free to go to sleep because it might get boring and that's cool. About films. So I've been a big film guy for quite a few years now. My parents were my age, like now in the late 80s through to the early 90s. That's when they were in their 20s, through to basically all the 90s. So they watched a lot of cinema. You know, it was a big event back then. So I grew up with parents who'd watched lots of movies. As a kid, I was never massively into cinema, but I liked movies. Then I started to get into like horror films, mainly because of Cinemassacre, James Rolfe's videos. Really liked his videos on them. I used to also love watching like Nostalgia Critic and stuff, and like movie critics. So then I started to watch movies, and I gravitated towards lots of like cult classics, like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was one of the very first ones I remember watching. Evil Dead 2, Bad Taste, that's a very early Peter Jackson film. Clerks, Dazed and Confused, Tarantino movies. Pulp Fiction was like a game changer for me. I'm not a massive fan of him anymore. Reservoir Dogs is still like a classic, and so is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. They're still both great movies, regardless of what you say, anyone says. True Romance is also really great. I know he only wrote that, but I also have that there on DVD. My favourite movies, I just like a lot of different movies. I like some more mainstream ones, and I like a lot of lesser known ones. I love exploring cinema, new cinema. Like, I've seen so many movies which are like quite obscure, underground sort of, sorry about that, technical difficulties. Anyway, I like a lot of, non-English language movies, and I like a lot of underground, sort of more punky style movies, sort of thing from the 80s and 90s. My favourite movie ever is a movie called Jules and Jim. It's a French movie from 1962, directed by Francois Truffaut. It's essentially about a love triangle, but also about a friendship. It's a really great movie. Highly recommend that one. It's my favourite movie ever. I also love The Graduate, the Mike Nichols movie, with Dustin Hoffman, Anne Bancroft, and Catherine Ross. What other movies do I love so much? For some reason, my eyes are like really allergy sort of thing, allergy lately, so ignore that. I love The Heartbreak Kid from 1972 with Charles Grodin as Sybil Shepherd, directed by Elaine May. That's a great movie. Annie Hall. My favourite rom-com ever, technically. It's practically defined rom-coms. That's a great movie. Blue Velvet, I'm a big David Lynch fan. Greg Araki, who did Nowhere, I mentioned in the movie store one. That's one of my favourite movies. I also loved The Doom Generation, Totally Fucked Up, and Mysterious Skin, which he also directed those movies. They were great as well. John Waters, I love John Waters movies. Pink Flamingos is so funny, and people always say like Pink Flamingos like it's one of the most disturbing movies ever. It's not disturbing. It's like it's a gross out comedy, but like the whole point is it's this very punky underground queer movie. It's not a disturbing movie. It's actually really funny. So go watch that movie. I'd recommend before you I'd say before you will pass judgment about his stuff essentially. That's a great movie. Oh goodness, so many other filmmakers I love. Early Wes Anderson, I love early Wes Anderson so much. I love Rushmore and The Royal Tenenbaums, they're great movies. Martin Scorsese makes great movies also. Goodfellas and After Hours are my favourite of his. Paul Thomas Anderson, I love Boogie Nights the most. I also love Punch Drunk Love, Inherent Vice, which I know is quite mixed opinions, and Licorice Pizza, which I know that was mixed opinions, but like, I have a massive crush on Alana Haim, so that kind of elevates that movie for me. But that is a great movie, jokes aside, that is a great movie. It's not a joke that I have a crush on Alana Haim, I'm just saying, but that's a great movie, Licorice Pizza. Paul Thomas Anderson's one of my favourites, I'd say. He's very good. There's just Jean-Luc Godard, Breathless, Pearl Le Feu, Masculine and Feminine, they're all great movies. Of course, behind me I've got Rainer Werner Fassbinder, who was a German filmmaker who made loads of movies, mainly in the 1970s. Fox and His Friends is my favourite of his. A lot of his movies were also a lot of his movies dealt with very taboo topics at the time, and he was bisexual, so a lot of his movies were quite queer, you know, if that's what you're into. So that's a person to check out. He was great. Also, Francois Truffaut, I already mentioned. I was looking on a shelf. Takeshi Kitano, he's a great Japanese filmmaker. If you ever heard of Takeshi's Castle, he was the guy who created that. The Three Colors trilogy is up there. That's a pretty great movie series. Krzysztof Kowalski from the early 90s. The Coen Brothers. Coen Brothers are great. Whit Stillman, if you've never heard of Whit Stillman, I highly recommend him. He directed 3 movies in the 90s called Metropolitan, Barcelona, and The Last Days of Disco, which they are so good movies. Please watch them. They're just like perfect dialogue-driven movies. They're so good. I love those films. So I'd highly recommend those ones. If I said the Coen Brothers already, Fargo and Barton Fink, they're 2 of the best. Ooh, who else is there? There's so many filmmakers I just adore. I'll put my Letterboxd in the description, so follow me on Letterboxd, because I'll probably go more into detail about movies there. As weird as it sounds, I love James Cameron. I hold a lot of respect for James Cameron as a guy and as a filmmaker, and I think he's very boundary pushing in terms of like technical stuff. I don't really like sort of like big action movies, blockbuster movies, but James Cameron is one who comes to mind because I watched The Abyss not so long ago, and he's a very good filmmaker. Genuinely, I will stand by that point that James Cameron is great. I recommend that. His movies. Yeah, David Lynch. Let's talk about David Lynch. I love David Lynch. Sorry, my floor. I'm trying to think of my floor. I mean my jeans. Sorry. So David Lynch, obviously, loads of great movies. Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. I love Twin Peaks, but Twin Peaks isn't just David Lynch. In fact, he like didn't actually contribute that much to the original show in terms of writing, and a lot of the stuff that people hate about Twin Peaks was actually his fault. Like season 2, he actually had a lot of involvement in season 2. There's a massive sort of like narrative spun around that like he didn't have control and that's why it's bad. It's like, no, Lynch did have control, and Lynch wrote like 4 episodes of the original show and directed like 2. It was mainly Mark Frost, and there was 2 other people, Robert Engels, I think, who wrote Firewalk with him, and there was someone else, Peyton something, can't remember her name at all. I presume it was a, because Peyton's usually, whatever, I'm getting sidetracked. But my actual favourite filmmaker is probably Stanley Kubrick. I know it's a basic choice, but I love Stanley Kubrick's movies so much. Clockwork Orange is great, 2001 is great, Full Metal Jacket is great, but my favourite is Eyes Wide Shut. Love that movie so much. It's just so good. My favourite Christmas movie. One Car Why. Fallen Angels and Chungking Express, they're great movies. Highly recommend them. I love Star Wars, honestly. The original Star Wars, the original 3 movies. American Graffiti is also a really great movie. George Lucas directed. Definitely recommend that. Albert Brooks, he's a really good filmmaker. You probably know him from like The Simpsons and stuff, but he's a really good filmmaker. He did Modern Romance. Watch Modern Romance, so good. Actually, one of the best romantic comedies ever made from the 80s. So good. What was it? Lost in America, that one was also good. Who was that? I think it was Julie Haggerty, I think, was in that movie. Julie someone. Julie Haggerty is my final guess. Who is in that movie. Yeah, that's a great movie. I'm thinking of the movies now. Singing in the Rain. Singing in the Rain's a great one. Very good movie, very funny, happy movie. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I'm not a Spielberg fan, but that movie is good. And Richard Dreyfuss is one of my favourite actors. I love Richard Dreyfuss, he's so good. I'd recommend Close Encounters. I love Aliens. You know, I'm a huge Alien guy. I'm a massive believer in Aliens. That's a really good one. I mentioned Kevin Smith earlier. I love his like 90s comedies. I think they were good. I like a lot of 90s comedies. I love Clueless. So I like a lot of sort of more, you know, mainstream 90s comedies. They're all good. In the 80s, you know, Fast Times at Ridgemont High is a great movie. And for more reasons than just what happens at the 52-minute mark. So I like a lot of those sort of movies as well. It's not all doom and gloom stuff. Chinatown, that's a great movie. Great detective movie. Directed by a horrible person, but everyone else involved, you know, don't deserve to be discredited for the fact that they made such a great movie. So that's a good one. Casablanca, that's one of my favourite movies. I love Casablanca. I haven't seen too many movies from like that era. I love Wizard of Oz and City Lights, a Charlie Chaplin movie. The oldest movie I've ever watched would be Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is the 1920s, I think. Silent German Expressionism movie. That's a good movie. But I haven't seen too many movies from there. And mostly the 60s to the 90s is probably the period I've seen the most films from, I think. 50s had good movies too, of course. Rebel Without a Cause, it's a great movie. Rio Bravo, was Rio Bravo the 60s or was it the late 50s? I can't remember. I think it was early 60s. I think Rio Bravo was like 1960. That's like one of my favourite movies ever. I haven't watched many westerns, but that movie is so good. It's such a good film. Please watch Rio Bravo if you've never watched it. Dean Martin, John Wayne, Ricky Nelson, great movie. And a bunch of other people. Angie Dickinson. And, oh my goodness, he's the older man in it. He's good as well. But that's a good movie. Fight Club. I love Fight Club. I don't care. I don't like David Fincher. I think he's overrated. I don't understand why everyone thinks he's the greatest thing ever. In terms of like blockbusters, you know, he makes like basically boring blockbuster films. I'm sorry, he just does. I don't care. The Killer was not good, but Fight Club is a great movie. I love that. Similar to sort of Christopher Nolan, I just don't like Christopher Nolan's films, you know. I think he just is, you know, I respect him as a filmmaker, but Memento is really not one of his films I'm ever going to, you know, think about watching again. You know, that's a great movie. That one's a very good movie. But this isn't about who I dislike. I could do a video about filmmakers I dislike, though. What's his name who did Dune, the new ones? Denis Villeneuve. I don't like him either. He's like basically the same as like Nolan and Fincher for me. Election. Alexander Payne, that's one of my favourite movies. Drugstore Cowboy. And My Own Private Idaho by Gus Van Sant. Those are great movies. Blow Up. This is gonna be the thumbnail. Hang on. Blow Up, that's a great movie. Vanilla Sky, that's a great one. I'm just looking at all my movies here now. Videodrome, I don't know if I already mentioned Videodrome, that's a really good movie. And I'm just saying the same sort of thing because these are really good movies, but I'm just rambling about movies. Drop Dead Gorgeous. Drop Dead Gorgeous. That is a really great movie. It's a late 90s black comedy starring like Kirsten Dunst and Kirstie Alley and Denise Richards and Alan Barkin and Alison Janney and Amy Adams and Brittany Murphy, who I used to have the massive, biggest crush ever on. And she's still like one of my favourite actresses. She was brilliant. That's one of the funniest. I will contend that might be the funniest movie ever made. So definitely recommend. I'd recommend that one definitely. You can have a little look at my shelves if you want to. They're all, you know, I haven't got a great angle, but for the most part, Rocky Horror Picture Show. I love a good musical. And Shock Treatment, which is the sequel, which nobody ever talks about, is also great. Southland Tales, that's a great movie. Once again, don't care. Great movie. I genuinely believe it's a great film. Repo Man. Repo Man. That's a really good movie. Phantom of the Paradise. Brian De Palma's best. With probably my favourite actress next to Brittany Murphy, Jessica Harper from Suspiria. I promise I like movies for more reasons than I have crushes on the actors in them. I promise. But I just watched a lot of movies that have, you know, attractive people in them. That's what the point of the movies are, come on. You know, that's why Fight Club exists, so we can see Ed Norton. That's the whole point of it. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what other movies, like I say, Suspiria, I just mentioned that. Heathers is a really great movie. Winona Ryder and Christian Slater, that's a great film. I'm just looking up my shelves now. I'm down here on the floor. Ed Wood. I don't like Tim Burton or Johnny Depp, but Ed Wood is a good movie. That's one of the best films about filmmaking. That is a really good movie. It's like, you know, when they'll be like, it's an actor and a director I don't like, but they come together to make this like one movie that is really great. And it's like, you kind of forget that it's Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, because the acting has like, it's by far and away that of Fear and Loathing and Johnny Depp's best performances. Like back when Johnny Depp tried, before, I promise I wasn't going to hate, but before he jumped on Pirates of the Caribbean and thought he was like the biggest thing in the world, the Pirates of the Caribbean movies suck. They are so bad and everyone liked them as a kid. They're awful. And the biggest irony is when people who hate modern blockbusters like Marvel movies say they were cash grabs, love Pirates of the Caribbean. Listen, mate, Pirates of the Caribbean was based on a themed hot ride. It's just as much as a cash grab as Marvel, okay? Back to movies I like. Fallen Angels and Chungking Express. Did I mention those by one call? Can't remember. Charlie Kaufman. I like Charlie Kaufman. Adaptation and Being John Malkovich and such. Eternal Sunshine. Very good screenwriter. Jim Jarmusch. Jim Jarmusch is another one I love. You might not have heard of Jim Jarmusch. He's not like as famous as some of the other ones I've mentioned. But he made Stranger Than Paradise, Mystery Train, Down by Law, Night on Earth. Really good, like, low budget, independent character study, character focus movies. A bit like Richard Linklater, who's another great one. Slacker is my favourite Richard Linklater movie, I'm sure you're all wondering. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, that's a great movie. Paul Newman, Robert Redford, amazing actors. Putreval, Claire Denis, that's a great movie. Late 90s, slow French movie, really good film. Terry Gilliam, he's another really good filmmaker I like a lot. I've got a couple of his that's pretty much all my shelves there covered. Well, that's just a bunch of films I love. This video is going on for too long, but that's a ramble about films I love, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And, you know, sorry, I'm tired whenever I do these videos. I'm always tired because I do them at night, but I love just rambling. I love talking about things. So I'll just see how this goes, just, you know, longer ramble about movies. So, there we go. My letterbox is in the description, so please go follow me there. Let's be friends on Letterboxd, because then I will, and you can see what movies I like, and I'll see what movies you like. In the comments, let me know what your favourite movies and directors are. Go on, tell me. I'll read. I read every comment I get, of course I do. I don't get that many comments. I read every single one of them. I like them all. Give them a little heart, so yeah, go on. Anyway, as I always say in these videos, stay beautiful. As I always say in these videos, stay beautiful.